Okay, here we go again, back to the sofa. I really feel that I belong to the sofa, especially after your conversation with Kasia Kuba. I'm also an ADHD and undiagnosed, but I feel this is becoming ADHD couch. And Ola, I know your profile as well, so this feels good. This feels like our small community. What you don't know about Kasia, but I think I can freely share, is that Kasia is an amazing podcaster. So if you get a chance to listen some of her podcasts, recommend. Right, coming back to our neurodiversity experts, I'm really privileged to be having this conversation with you, or should I rather say, leave a space for you to continue the conversation. My experience is, and I think this experience is shared by a lot of people, is that more and more people are kind of disclosing their ADHD profile or the fact that they are autistic, right? Can we say that we are having more and more neurodivergent people in our environment? Has something changed? Honestly, every other person that I speak to admits to be ADHD or autistic.
You know, I wouldn't say that we have more neurodivergent individuals than we used to have in the past. Mm-hmm. The difference is that we have more aware people of the diagnosis or of the conditions, really, because of those neurodiversity movement that is nowadays kind of spreading, and I'm really happy that me and Ola can contribute to that, to raising the awareness. So people, you know, we have these examples actually from our work that's, in many cases, it's because of the children actually, because when the children are diagnosed, the parents got this hint, okay, I was quite of the same when I was younger, so maybe that's for me to diagnose. And also, I think I can say that after each of our sessions, we have at least one person who is asking us how to make a diagnosis. So it's not because neurodivergency is something new in our modernity time, just because of make more awareness of that, and also the more social recognition to give people the bravery and I think curiosity as well to just make a diagnosis to help themselves. I think the Kasia's example was exactly that, to make a relief, to know how to guide yourself.
And to normalize the subject.
Exactly.
Ola?
Often a situation of actually the whole family tradition, I would say, because we, like was said, a lot of times adults realize that they are neurodivergent only while the child is being diagnosed, right? And that is very often a moment when people tend to, be surprised with the fact that what they experience and what they thought was the normal way, I mean, the way that majority of people would experience the reality is actually not the case. I mean, it's not that the majority of people would have the same feelings, the same experiences, and that is the moment when people try to, understand and reflect and really find themselves as well, right? So I definitely agree this is something that is about awareness, not necessarily about the fact there are more neurodivergent people, but and it's awareness among neurodivergent individuals, but it's also the raising awareness around among specialists, among people who are dedicated to this topic, like, as psychologists or psychiatrists, right? Who also are and teachers, and the whole ecosystem basically of people who are working with neurodivergent individuals, and I see that as well among our customers. So the Diversity Hub customers that we've been working with Kuba are also often reaching out to us with a slightly different approach already than it used to be in the past. So as we started 2 years ago, around 2 years ago, to work together, I think the whole market and lots of people were first of all learning what neurodiversity is, and that was kind of a new term for many people. These days, I see it slightly differently, so it's not that new anymore. It's more, there is some sort of basic level of awareness already that it exists, that it's relevant, that it's needed, and to talk about it. And the customers are, more often reaching out to say, okay, how do we deal with that? How do we manage that? We understand the topic is important, but we don't know where to start. So it is also slightly different approach that we, tend to take now than it used to be in the past.
Yeah, and Ola, you just mentioned that also the specialists, psychiatrists, psychologists are more aware of the fact, and that's the most important thing that I think is happening nowadays on our eyes, that we are changing the paradigm, starting to think of neurodivergency not as an ill or not as a disorder, a neurodevelopmental disorder. It is still coded so on DSM, for instance. But nowadays we are getting this understanding and acceptance that this is something much, much more than just being disorder. It's this different condition, so-called alternated brain, and I think it's also encouraging people to get diagnosis, to share this with their colleagues, with their friends, also in the corporates, because if we know that, okay, I'm not disordered, I'm just slightly different because of my neurocapacity, it's easier just to be who I am.
Can I ask you something out of script? And I'm learning as you talk. What reactions you get from people once you submit their diagnosis to them? Are they surprised, not surprised, learning the profile?
I think people tend to appreciate, first of all, that they hear it.
Definitely.
And it opens up a lot of conversations. And it's not only for us as facilitators and trainers, but we see that as well as a kind of downstream effect. So if people understand that it's okay to talk about it, to share that, you know, you might be autistic or, you know, have ADHD or anything else, which might be dyslexia, dysgraphia, or, you know, lots of other things that are, I would say, under the label of neurodivergency. Once people realize that there's actually no judgment, and it opens a lot of conversation, and it opens a lot of, I would say, really positive feelings of kind of safety and understanding, that people start to, share their own stories as well. And it happened to us, lots of time during workshops, that, if we start with the opening stories of our private stories, basically, we then hear also already in the intro round, when every person is introducing themselves, some things that they share from the private life that oftentimes are actually unexpected and surprising for the rest of the group, even if they know each other very well, for example. So they've been working together for a long time, and then suddenly realize, oh, this person has this or that diagnosis, and we didn't know about it, right? And yeah.
I'd say, it's kind of neurodiversity in practice, showing people on the example. I need to admit that at first I was really kind of afraid and not sure whether I should, oversharing my personal life and my personal experience. But I've noticed while working with Ola on the trainings that, it's encouraging people and also showing in practice that, okay, I can be ADHD, it still be kind of sorry to use this label now, a normal participant of the daily social... equal participant of the social life, and that I'm not crazy or something like that. And I think it's also encouraging people to say, okay, neurodivergency does not mean, being super disordered or something like that. It's sometimes having a special needs, but I think it's a good moment to also mention that neurodiversity is much more, right? It's not only description of well-being, as Ola said, about ADHD, dyspraxia, dyslexia, sensory disruption or something like that. It's the definition of human diversity in terms of neurocapacity. So each and every one of us, it's kind of neurodiverse in the way that we are differently wired. And I think it's also contributing to positive impact on DEI, the way that this is a topic for everybody. And that's something that we already noticed after these 2 years of practice, that starting with saying, okay, each and every one of us has special needs or some specific needs due to that fact that we have a different environmental tendencies and so on and so on. People are also getting to this acceptance easier because, okay, you don't need to be ADHD to be highly extrovert, and so to have a specific tendencies to collaborate with others or to need more stimuli in order to focus. And ADHD is just the extreme level of this extraversion. Okay, I'm just generalizing, it's much more complicated, but saying that, showing to the people that this is universal design for everybody, can benefit out of those accommodations incorporated in any environment, it will benefit to just better motivation, better efficiency, productivity, simply being more satisfied of what I am doing and who I am.
Yeah. Yes, and I think that is also actually one of the things that we see in those programs focused on neurodiversity, where those successful programs actually that are not only focusing on the neurodivergent individuals, but are really looking for the broader term of neurodiversity as individual needs, potential, but also challenges, right? And we often say that as well during the workshops, that the profiles of neurodivergent individuals can often be treated as some sort of extreme categories of needs or challenges, but actually any other person could also benefit from these or the other opportunities created for neurodivergent individuals, right? So, and it might be moments in life only, it might be, just temporary, but it might be also, like Kuba mentioned, extroversy or introversy or any other, kind of characteristics of individuals who are neurotypical, but also have certain preferences, right? And may also prefer to work in a quiet place, or may also have, preferences related to online meetings or being face-to-face, right? And so everyone can actually benefit from those opportunities created, with neurodivergent individuals in mind. And I think also when we look at those programs, the successful ones are those that are looking at the both bottom-up and top-down initiatives. So, and I've heard Gosia speaking about ambassadors earlier today as well. And I think in that context of neurodiversity, it's important to mention too that, yes, the advocacy and, the ERGs or, any kind of groups that are basically working to make sure that everyone is aware in the organization of the topic, also needs some support from the top-down perspective. So, just raising awareness may not be enough, but also driving, some specific changes related to policies and approach, or even, kind of a way of introducing the topic in the organization from the top-level perspective. That's something that that is definitely helping as well to bring that topic to the next level.
So $1 million question. What changes, like realistically and practically, once organization learns that they have neurodivergent people? What changes in the system?
If we acknowledge neurodivergent individuals, you mean? I think in general.
What do organizations do?
For neurodiversity, okay, I get it. First of all, I think it's starting from the very small things, as the more compassion and more understanding about your collaborators and colleagues from work. Sometimes that's something that I'm encouraging our clients to do. You don't need to say out loud if you don't feel comfortable that you are ADHD or the autistic or dyslexic. You can just say about your individual differences in terms of neurocognitive functioning, for instance, that in order for you to be more motivated, you need just those and those environmental conditions. And that is much easier communication, especially that we need to remember that there is still law, and there is no law obligation to ask anybody about the diagnosis. So that's the first thing. And secondly, there are some also accommodations already happening in our clients, for instance, in both in the environmental structure of the workplace as well as the social. Starting for the very small examples, like making an email more accessible for everybody. So
what does it mean?
Like, for instance, if you know that we have a different capacities in terms of cognitive functions, right? So for somebody is more holistic or somewhere else is more analytic, you can do both in one email, for instance. So like marking most important key points at the beginning and then describing and elaborating on them more. So then if you need just a brief information, you can just focus on the first part, not using your capacity, for going through all of those information that are not necessarily important for you. And for analytic people, it's going to be more useful if they have those elaboration afterwards. That kind of small things already contributing to more motivation. And we have this success story of our client that after, training all of the managements and also HR department, they were already providing such tools and such equipment, accommodations to their teams. So people started to say more about their needs, about the diagnosis as well. And it's resulted to create this, as Ola said, bottom-up establishment of ambassadors in their company. So it's going both directions.
Okay. I feel Kuba will fly away from the chair soon.
Sorry.
ADHD. Ola, final thoughts or adding your observation or practice to the list?
Yes, so just to emphasize one of the things that Kuba mentioned as well, to close, I think if you ask what is changing for the clients, I think the most important is that conversation about needs, right? So the fact that people start to share that they have specific needs, challenges, and they feel they can be transparent about it, and that they can be also understood, and it can be, you know, a very kind of regular conversation of how can we work, knowing that we have this or that limitations, that we have this or that options on the table, and then how can we, you know, adjust and how can we collaborate so that, you know, we both feel comfortable.
So hopefully this conversation proved or evidence that there's a strong business case for neurodiversity, and this case should be even stronger and stronger.